Right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am just going to do a quick overview of how I did my countertops. I just finished my kitchen countertops, so several people have asked how I completed the look. So I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of how I completed the look. Don't mind my shirt. This is my paint shirt. But anyways, I'm going to get started to give you a quick overview. So you want to, I used a sample piece of wood to be of a sample. So you want to do a test of how you want your look to be. So I'll just give you guys kind of how my sample board looked. This is my sample board. I tried a couple different acrylic paints and a couple different little methods on here. So this is my sample board. So we're going to do a clean slate here, and I'm just going to show you guys how to do this. So what you want to do, you want to first clean your surface. I used Krud Kutter, and this is to get all the grease and the crud off your countertops. And so you want to just do a good cleanse with your Krud Kutter or anything that's similar to like this. That's a degreaser or kitchen cleaner that removes crud and grease and things like that. So this is really good. I got it at Home Depot like $3 or so. No, I take it back. It was about $5 or $6 maybe. But this was really good. So after you clean with the Krud Kutter, you want to wash your counters down with soap and water to get rid of the Krud Kutter residue left on the counters. So that is that. Before you order your epoxy or wherever you're going to get your epoxy from, you want to use epoxy. I don't have my bottles. I've thrown them away. But you want to use epoxy that is for the kitchen. It has like heat resistant, UV ray resistant, because you don't want it to turn yellow from the sun. If your kitchen has access to a lot of sunlight, it'll turn yellow. So in order to get your epoxy, you're going to measure your length times your width to get your square footage. You want approximately 3 ounces per square foot of epoxy to be able to cover your countertops evenly. You want to do it an even coat, so you want about 3 ounces per square foot is what is recommended. So after you have cleaned, prepared your surfaces, you're going to prime. So I have already primed my surface here. This is already primed for you guys, but you're going to do 1 to 2 coats of primer, and then you're going to do a top coat of whatever color that you want your countertop to be. So I'm going with white here. And you're going to make sure you prime everything good, give it a nice top coat, make sure everything, was sanded, all your surface is smooth before you begin. So when you go to make your little vein lines, I used acrylic paint. I got these from Target. They're like $1 or $2 a piece or whatever, but you can use whatever acrylic or whatever colors you want. Get them from Michael's, Hobby Lobby. Pretty much any store has some acrylic paint, so you can use whatever colors, but this is just kind of a light silver color, and this one here is just a gold color that I use to accent. And so I'm going to show you guys how I do my colors on here. So let's see. I'm making a mess. So just a little bit of gray, and I did all of my gray lines first. I see I can like that on my shirt because it's my paint shirt. So I did all of my gray lines first on the countertops and let them dry, and then I came back to have all kinds of paint. I just flicked all over my hands. I'm making a mess, but it's okay. It's my paint shirt. So I did all my gray lines, and then I came back after the gray was dry and followed through with my gold. But I'm just going to give you guys a quick show of how I did my paint colors here. All right. So we are working with a clean slate here, except I just spilt a little bit. And then what you're going to want to do is I have a little spray bottle, and this is 91% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, 91%. And so I'm going to use this to kind of help break up the paint a little bit when I get ready to, put my lines down. So I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. Make sure that's open. That's open. Okay, so I just have like a very small brush here. You're going to just take a very small brush, and you're just going to make some you want to kind of keep all your lines going in the same direction somewhat, but it's your preference, it's your countertop. Do your workspace how you like, but mostly kind of in the same direction. So you're just going to take this brush and you're gonna just make some thin lines here. And then, you know, we're just gonna make a couple little lines here. Just give you an example. All right. So I'm going super thin today. And you just follow the lines, and when you do your lines, you want to make sure you go over your edges so it kind of looks like a natural look. So you want your lines to carry over the edges, so make sure you go over the edge of the board with your lines when you get to the end of or your countertops. You want to make sure you go over the lines. So let's see, I don't know if this light is too bright or trying to see if that's giving me enough light for you guys to see it. All right, I hope you guys can see that. All right, so we're just trying to get a good little line here. I'm trying to make it dark enough. I can see it from my angle, but I'm trying to make sure you guys can see this little line here. All right. Oh, and I need to go back a step. Before you guys, when you sand your countertops, make sure you kind of round your edges. So if this is the edge of your countertop, you don't want it to be a square edge here. You want it to be rounded. So you're going to take your sander. I use this not expensive sander. It's like 30 bucks at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can get one at Walmart. And you get the different sheets. You buy the different sheets, sanding sheets to sand. And then they have certain grades that take off or just to smooth. So you can check with your store. But this is like $28, guys. It's not expensive. So that's what I sanded my countertops with or whatever. And then when I went to do my edges, I simply kind of rolled like this with my sander along the edges to give it a curved look. So the epoxy, when you get to the epoxy, you want the epoxy to be able to flow over and continue to look smooth. Okay, so we have a gray line here, and I'm going to show you guys how I kind of fan out those lines. So let you see that. So what I do is I take a little bit bigger brush here, and I take the alcohol and I just spray the end of the brush there. You also can spray along the lines on the counter. It won't mess anything up. So you're going to spray along the line, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush and lift this up so you can see more, and I'm literally just going to kind of splotch or blot along the line, and the alcohol is going to kind of help break up the acrylic enough so it kind of looks like it's just not this harsh line there, but it's a more kind of natural light. So the alcohol will help break that look up a little bit, so it's just not you know, a solid line. It's just going to kind of fan it out a little bit. So I'm going to do that along every line, and then I'm just working my way, you know, and you can kind of just move quick. It doesn't have to take long. So I'm going to work my way along the line there, and then you see if you can see it. You see it kind of spread it out a little bit. All right, so then that's how you would do your lines. I go through the whole countertop, and you want to do your base line color, you know, on the counter, you know, on all the counters to get that look done. And then what we're going to do secondly is we're going to come through with the gold, and I have a different brush, and what you're going to do is you're going to just kind of outline. See if I can hold this up. You're going to outline along the other gray line. Just come like right along the edge of it here. Along the edge of it. I'm just trying to move quick so I can show you guys. And you just outline it on each side. So I'm just kind of coming along each side of the line. Just like so. All right, so now you kind of have, you know, well, kind of just looks like a mess at the moment. But then you're going to take the brush, a brush that you, or a separate, you know, a little bit bigger brush. And I use a separate brush. You don't want to use the same brush you just got silver on. So I'm going to rinse that off real quick. All right. You rinse that silver off, but I just used a whole separate brush, so I didn't have to do that. Again, we're going to just spray a little bit on the tips of the brush, and then we're going to do that same method with the gold. We're just going to blot along, you know, those gold lines, outlining. If the lines are real long, don't do the whole line, do a little bit at a time, so that way the acrylic doesn't dry. You don't want it to dry, but so we're going to take this and we're just kind of going along the outside of the silver lines with the gray, and we're just kind of brushing that out a little bit, blotting it out a little bit, trying to get it to smooth together. And then as you can see, it kind of starts to form, you know, your lines there, but they start to kind of blend and look good together. So it doesn't have to be super perfect. You don't want your lines to be super clean. You want it kind of brushed out so it looks like it's a natural flow. That's how I ended up getting, I'll show you my sample again, getting some of those lines and practice with, and I blend it together or whatever. That's not what my countertop looks like, but this was my sample board. So this is just to give you idea of how to get those lines together. So that's what you do. And then once that is dry, you are going to, where did it go? You are going to come back and tape off when you're getting ready to start for your epoxy. You're going to come back and you are going to tape off the countertop edges. So when you do this, you hold it up so you can see. You want to tape off the countertop edges so that way it's building a wall. So you want the edge of the tape lifted up above the counter so that way it kind of creates a wall there. I'll show it from a different angle. So it's sticking above the counter. See how that's sticking up? So only stick half of it on the edge and let the rest stick up. It's building a wall so you can keep your epoxy from running over immediately. And then what you want to do is, so now we have our wall. So when you get ready to pour the epoxy, guys, that's the important part. Make sure you mix your epoxy correctly. Do exactly as it says. If you don't mix the epoxy right, it won't harden. It won't be right. Do as the epoxy says. Can't stress that enough. So I am going to show you how we do that. I don't have any epoxy on hand, but if this is just some hair gel that I'm just going to use as an example, but we're going to say that we had epoxy. You want to put your part A in one bowl or a bucket and part B in a bucket, mix them each by themselves, and you are going to use this paint mixer here and a drill. It literally just sticks right in there. Tighten it up here. You're gonna tighten. Hang on. Why isn't it going down in there? Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. I was going the wrong way. That's why. So this is what that looks like. You paint on your drill. So you are gonna mix each bucket with your mixer here. I mix each bucket, each one separately for 2 minutes each, at least 2 minutes each, using your drill, separate buckets. Then you're gonna take part B and mix it with part A in another new bucket. And then you are going to mix the combination of the two mixed together for about 5 to 7 minutes. I know it seems like a long time, it is, but 5 to 7 minutes or so to make sure it's all mixed. You're going to be taking this and make sure you're scraping the edges, scraping the bottom, scraping the sides, so it's all mixed. All right, so we are going to pretend this is our epoxy, okay? So everything else is dried, it's ready to go, and here we go. So again, this is just some hair gel, just to show you guys what we're doing here. You don't want to pour it out to the edges because it's going to immediately run over and you're not ready for that. So you're going to just kind of circulate it there in the middle. And you are going to use a foam roller to spread it out. But before you use the roller, what you want to do is you want to use a 3/8 or 1/8, I think it is, trowel, and you want to take this and you want to just spread your epoxy. This is going to give it an even spread. So you're going to take it and you're going to just kind of spread your epoxy out here all over the, over the counter to spread it out to get it even. Still staying away from the edges, So we got this, so we're going to evenly spread it out. All right, so we got it good to go there. And then we won't need this again. Once you're done with that, if you have time to take a few seconds, rinse this off with 91% alcohol. It helps to break up the epoxy because once it hardens, guys, on your tools, it's done. You have to throw it away. But if you immediately wash it with alcohol, it will, break it down and it comes off. So next, now we're going to use that foam roller. When you use a foam roller, you want to make sure, or any roller, you don't want anything to dry in this epoxy, hairs, little dust particles or anything. So take you some tape and kind of roll your roller along that tape and get some of the, make sure the hairs and the furries off. Don't set this anywhere that's going to get any dust or dirt or hairs on it, before you begin. Make sure it's in the package and comes out the package ready to roll. But take it right out if you've set it down or whatever, and just roll along the tape there and get out like a lint roller and just get the lint or particles off the roller. So next we are going to spread around the epoxy. So we got the epoxy on the countertops. You are literally going to take this and not apply pressure, but just roll lightly like you would, a paintbrush. You're going to take it back and forth, and you're just going to kind of move this epoxy around, but rolling, switching directions. And now you can take it to close to the edge. So you're just going to literally be rolling this around and just spreading it around, getting it even all over your countertops. And you can come close to the edge. Got that? So once we get done with that step, you then can go ahead and remove your tape. When you remove your tape, now we can go ahead and roll. Let's see, I can get this picked up a little bit. It's kind of heavy, it's hard, it's wood. So you want to get along, go ahead, you have some epoxy on here, but go ahead and pick up some more epoxy. Roll along your edges. Roll along your edges before you let the epoxy flow over. So roll along your edges, get a good clean roll along the edges, and then go ahead and continue to spread your epoxy out all the way to the edges. And what that does, and just evenly throughout the whole surface. So what that does is it's going to allow the epoxy is self-leveling. If you get a decent epoxy, a good grade epoxy, and the kind I use, the brand I use was Stone Coat, STONECOAT, Stone Coat. They have a website. They actually have a whole kit you can get, but their kits are expensive. So I just ordered the epoxy and did my own method. There's plenty of methods, and so this is just how I did mine. But Stone Coat is the brand that I use. I actually got it from Amazon though. They have their website, but they had it available on Amazon, so I ordered it from Amazon. So you want to just make sure you're getting that spread apart. Spread all over, and letting it to start to roll over your edges. It will do that kind of automatically. You'll bring it over a little bit with your roller, and it's self-leveling, so it'll kind of just spread out. Now, before you begin your project, you also, I forgot to say this part, so I'm going to go back, but before you begin your project, you are going to tape around the front of your countertops with plastic. And I also used this paper, craft paper, whatever, Home Depot. This roll is like $3. And you want to take this and tape this along the edge of your countertop. So when that epoxy rolls over, it's going to get on this. Along behind this, I have the plastic lined with my countertop. So it rolls over and all the paper and that plastic catches your epoxy. It's messy, guys. It's sticky. So if it gets on things, it is over. So have plastic taped around your counters, have plastic covering your floors, and make sure you have on shoes that you can leave right there on that plastic to go walk out in the house and not track it and wash your shoes off. So you wear bummy clothes that you don't care about going to the trash, or shoes that you don't care about, because if it gets on there, it's hard to get out. But if something gets on there, immediately wash it out with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and it'll help get it out. But I just have plastic cover my floors, cover my counters, or whatever. So now that you have epoxy spread, then the next thing you want to do is you want to get your heat gun, or you can use propane burner, propane torch. You can burn that, but I use this heat gun that I got from Amazon, and I'm not going to take it out the box, but it looks, shaped like this. So imagine if this was my heat gun, and what you want to do is you want to take the heat gun and you want to blow on the bubbles that you have on the bubbles may begin to form. So you want to just kind of go over the surface, the whole surface, kind of like this. Make sure you're staying back some distance, because you don't want to burn the epoxy. If you're too close for too long, it'll start to yellow because you're burning it. So don't do that, but you just want to kind of go over the surface, the whole surface, kind of like this, and a sweeping motion and going back and forth. And then you're like, oh, there's a bubble. Stay far away from the bubble, but kind of angle at that bubble and let the epoxy kind of blow the bubble out. And then so you're going to just continue to do that until you've gotten all the bubbles out. You have about, with the stone coat, you have about 45 minutes or so to work with the epoxy, but check the product that you buy, the timing, because once you pour or touch anything with the epoxy, the time starts there. So your 45 minutes will be from there. Again, if you have the backsplashes, I don't have to show you a backsplash right now, but if this is your backsplash of your counter, you're going to actually take a paint brush and brush once you pour the epoxy, just dip your brush in the epoxy and spread on the back counters with a brush. If your roller can fit along there, if your roller is, short enough or whatever to go along there, you can roll it along there as well. If not, you're going to take a brush and go along there. While you are doing it, you want to continue to keep checking that backsplash and keep smoothing along that backsplash, because what happens, gravity. So when you put epoxy on there, it wants to self-level. It'll run down the backsplash wall. And I mean backsplash, it's the back part here, or the short part here that comes up the wall. So when you pour your epoxy, it wants to run down that backsplash and go back to the counter so it can level. So you want to just kind of keep periodically, as you're pouring and spreading your epoxy, just keep going back to that backsplash and just keep it running, keep rolling it, out until it kind of starts to thicken a little bit and you don't see it running down, so you don't have run marks. So just kind of keep touching, back and forth a little bit periodically while you're spreading on your counter as well. So guys, any other tips? I can show you that this is a good primer. This is what I use by the Zinsser brand, but it's the Bulls Eye 123. I use this as a primer, and it says you don't need to sand, like sticks to any surface, don't need to sand. But if your counters are rough and just, got bumps and bruises to them, just go ahead and give it a light sand anyway. That's what I did, because I just wanted it to be as smooth as possible. But this is great if you don't have like a sander or whatever, but they're cheap, guys. So just get one and sand. If not, if you just know you have a few spots, they have, 1 second. They have here, the sanding blocks. So if you just need to hit a little spot or two, you can get these. These are only a couple dollars or whatever. And so you can just sand, the spot you need to get out if you just have a few spots. But Sanders Investor, if you own a home, then you can always use it on other projects as well. So once you have got everything completely, everything smoothed out, and when you're rolling your epoxy, guys, make sure you're staying back from your edge here, because if you're leaning over to get to the back areas, you don't want your shirt or whatever to get in the epoxy right here that you've rolled. So make sure you're kind of standing back and you are kind of rolling like this to get it spread out, so you're not messing up the front here and getting all stuck to it, because that's no fun either. So other than that, when you are done, finished rolling everything out, you want to make sure within 2 hours, so I would say about an hour and a half to 2 hours, you have to come back through and remove the tape. If you leave that tape on there while it dries, once it's dry, you're done. You won't be able to get it out of there. So remove that tape, guys. Within an hour and a half to 2 hours, it starts to kind of set. Just move that tape, get it all out the way. Leave your plastic up. Leave the paper up that you've put along your cabinets, but take away the tape. All tape. Remove all the tape that you had, you know, taping off your sink or taping off the wall behind the backsplash, things like that. On areas you just didn't want to get the epoxy on, just go ahead and remove those tape, because that epoxy, like I said, once it hardens, that's it. I think that is pretty much all. So I hope that has helped a few of you guys. If you have a bigger surface area, bigger countertops, use 2 people. I did it by myself, but I think I would have did a lot better if I had a second person, especially when it came to pouring the epoxy part. Everything else was okay, but if you have big countertops, you want to move as fast as possible. So having a second person when it comes to the epoxy part is very key, if you can have a second person. So I hope that has helped. I hope you enjoy your journey. If you are going to go ahead and go for it, you can do bathrooms, you can do the kitchens. Some people do their floors and their garages or whatever, but make sure you research, you know, the area that you're doing to see what products and everything are recommended, and things like that, and make sure you have the right tools. But this was how I did mine. I hope you found it helpful. Check you next time.